Started here. Thank you all for joining us today. In the interest of everyone's time, we just want to make sure that we get this going, and we thank you very much for joining us. I just want to give a special shout out to Mr. Ken Hiraki for helping us to set up this meeting today. I also want to thank the Hawaii Realtors Association for their support, collaborating with us to get some general funds from the legislature to kickstart this landlord incentive program. And it came in at about $1.45 million. So we're really hoping that these funds will be able to generate a lot of interest with all of you landlords, and hope that you will consider our Section 8 participants as tenants. So I just want to go ahead and introduce right now Ms. Sarah Beamer. She is our moving to work administrator, and Mr. Nick Ayabe. He is our technical assistant.
List.
So make sure that everybody themselves, and if you just unmute yourself, I'm probably just going to mute you. We're going to go real fast with this, okay? Because we want to respect everyone's time. So Sarah, why don't you take it away?
Thank you, Ben. All right, can everybody see my screen? Okay. So thank you everybody for coming today. Just a couple of announcements. We are recording this this meeting, and we'll be making it publicly available on our website for later viewing for any interested parties who would like to learn about the incentives that we'll be presenting today. And then we will continue to be publishing on our website additional information as we develop the programs more and as we begin to roll them out. We'll also do our best to keep everybody, all of our landlords or interested individuals, updated about where we are in the progress and when these incentives are available. The purpose of today's meeting is not only to update our Oahu landlords on these new landlord incentives that we do plan to roll out in the next coming months, but also to answer questions and solicit feedback from everyone on these incentives as presented, so we can make them better and to provide successful programs that will benefit our tenants. If you have any questions or comments during the presentation, please leave them, please put them in the chat or wait until the end of the presentation when we'll address them. A little bit of background on how we got here. In earlier this year in January, HUD was selected, or HPHA, I apologize, was selected by HUD for an MTW demonstration program with a focus on landlord incentives. This MTW, Moving to Work, is an experimental program that will enable HPHA to test different programs, not just specifically for landlord incentives, but other programs to benefit our tenants that are catered to the local needs to increase operational efficiency and improve cost effectiveness. While it's called Moving to Work, the purpose isn't to create work requirements for public housing or Section 8 tenants, but to enable the HPHA to be proactive and innovative when developing different housing policies for our local families. So this is a program that will last for at least the next 20 years, or this MTW initiative, I should say, where we'll be able to test different things, see if they work for us, if we need to improve them, if we don't like them altogether. But ultimately, the basis for any initiatives that we do bring to the agency have to either reduce program costs and increase cost efficiency, encourage economic self-sufficiency for our families, or increase housing choices for low-income families. So in the case of landlord incentives, it's this third prong that we're achieving. A further element of the MTW's demonstration, though, is community engagement. So if at any time in the future, HPHA plans to either modify our landlord incentives or introduce new incentives, we'll be holding similar meetings as this to go over the aspects of those programs and, again, solicit feedback prior to taking any formal action. As Ben mentioned, the legislature recently, or this past session, passed a law or passed a bill which the governor signed into law that established 3 new landlord incentive programs, as well as provided funding for those programs. Additionally, some of you might be aware that the legislature had prior created a damage reimbursement program, which due to a lack of funding, we weren't able to actually get off the ground. This funding would be able to fund that program as well. We're not going to be going into the damage reimbursement program today because that's already something that's been established. Just these 3 MTW initiatives. However, we will be providing additional information regarding this reimbursement program once, again, it's ready to be rolled out. We can also, if you guys are interested, provide another brief training about damage reimbursements. The funding that we did get from the legislature is good through June 30th of next year. That's the end of the state fiscal year. However, we do plan to continue asking the legislature for funding assistance and to provide some federal assistance to continue these programs. However, I would like everybody to keep in mind that the ability to provide these initiatives are based on the availability of funding. So if at any time we don't either get the needed state funding or aren't able to supplement it with the use of federal funds, we would put a hold and would not be able to issue these kinds of payments. But for now, at least for the next year, and we don't think it'll be an issue. So moving into our landlord incentive programs. The goal of the landlord incentives are to increase the success rate for Section 8 families to find housing and to improve our landlord experience with Section 8, thereby encouraging landlords to begin renting or continue renting to Section 8 families. I would like to also state that these programs and incentives are only available for units that are occupied by tenants within HPHA's programs. As you know, there's city and county Section 8, as well as neighbor island Section 8 programs with their counties. These initiatives, as written and established by the legislature, as well as the MTW requirements, don't extend to any other agencies, but just HPHA. So the 3 new initiatives that we plan to roll out are to provide bonus payments, vacancy loss payments, and initial inspection flexibilities. The programs and procedures addressed today are not set in stone. They are subject to change based on the feedback we received today, as well as from other community groups that we'll be meeting with in the next few weeks. We will continue, as I said, to post additional information on our website when these programs are ready to be launched. And again, all landlord incentives will be subject to the availability of funds. For everybody's convenience, we'll be using one application form for all of these incentives. And keep in mind that certain incentives may require some supporting documentation, which the landlord will need to provide with while ideally when submitting this form or within 30 days of submitting a request for tenancy approval packet, but we'll go into that a little bit more later. These forms are currently not available online because the programs haven't been rolled out yet, but we will put them online, and we also plan to include them in the request for tenancy approval package that you do fill out for our tenants for each unit. So starting with signing bonuses. A landlord may qualify for a one-time bonus payment equal to 1 month's rent when a landlord rents to a Section 8 tenant for the first time. Bonuses will be applied per unit, so not per new landlord, but if this is the first time that your unit has, you're renting to a Section 8 person for that specific unit, if you have multiple, then you will have the opportunity to get that payment multiple times. You won't be able to double up and receive both a bonus payment and a vacancy loss payment at the same time. A unit may qualify for a bonus payment if it's either located in a high opportunity neighborhood or an area where vouchers are difficult to use. For this initial year at least, we plan to provide a broader definition of these terms to track the success rate of the program. So we've defined high opportunity to mean an area with a zip code located in tier 1 of our most current payment standard chart. Those are available online on our website. We also plan to define areas where vouchers are difficult to use to be the island of Oahu. So again, these definitions are subject to change, but initially we really wanted to be able to be as inclusive as possible with this program. So we tried to make it very broad, and so pretty much, well, not pretty much, the entire island, landlords who are renting will be able to qualify. On the claim form, you just need to check the box. Applications or these forms must be provided within 30 days of submitting the request for tenancy approval paperwork. Again, these should be provided in that packet that you're filling out. So ideally, you're submitting it at the same time, so there's no lag. Applications will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis to ensure that any prior bonus payments were not already issued to the landlord. Payment will only be provided once there is a signed HAP contract. These are federal requirements. And in the event that we do find that there is an error, that we have already issued a bonus payment, we will require the landlord to return the money. Vacancy loss payments. So a landlord may qualify for vacancy loss payment when a unit sits vacant between tenants and the new tenant is a Section 8 participant. So HPHA may pay a landlord 1 month of rent if there is a unit vacancy between Section 8 families, or if the prior tenant was not a Section 8 family. In this second scenario, the landlord would qualify for a vacancy payment if they have a prior history of renting to a Section 8 tenant, but their most recent rental was not to Section 8. So as we described, bonus payments are only allowed for the first time you're renting, but if there's any circumstance where you've rented to Section 8 in the past, but you had to rent to a non-Section 8 or for whatever reason, but now you want to come back and rent to Section 8 again, you would be you would qualify for a one-time front-end vacancy loss payment. However, there's no limitation if you're continuing to rent Section 8 to Section 8. So a Section 8 tenant moves out, you plan to rent to Section 8 again, you have a vacancy, and then you rent to Section 8. We'll continue to provide those vacancy loss payments up to 1 month of rent. Again, you just need to check off the form when submitting an application. You have 30 days from submitting your request for tenancy approval. Again, it's the same form that we intend to provide in the RTA packet, so you'll be able to provide it at the same time. Sorry, I do believe there's an error on the clip of this form. It's so there's currently not a requirement that you need to lease up within a 90-day period, so that will be removed. We may deny your application if a move-in doesn't actually occur. So you've submitted the application, but for whatever reason, the tenant decided not to move in, or you guys decided to not accept that Section 8 tenant. We may deny your application if there's been an issue with discrimination on the part of the landlord, or if there's a prior breach on the terms and conditions of a HAP contract. And then further, again, we review everything on a case-by-case basis to ensure that if it's a front-end vacancy payment, so you've come back to the program, that we haven't previously paid that money out. Same as bonus payments, we'll only issue payment once a HAP contract is signed. And at this time, we don't plan to do any sorts of proration. So in the case of maybe it took there's only a vacancy for a 2-week period, we're still planning to pay the full 1 month rent, as opposed to, you know, prorating it down to just 2 weeks. And if, again, same as the bonus payments, if we find out that a payment was made in error, we would request that money returned. Our last initiative is initial inspection flexibilities. We know that one issue that landlords have with the Section 8 program is the time it takes to move in families due to federal inspection requirements. The initial inspection flexibility program provides opportunities to waive the initial HQS inspection, thereby speeding up the time it takes for a participant to move in. So eligible units must meet one of the following criteria. The unit must either be less than 5 years old, have passed an HQS inspection or an equivalent HUD inspection within the last 3 years, or the unit is located in the census tract with a poverty rate of less than 10%. Landlords would be required to provide proof that that the unit is eligible for one of these categories. And if for whatever reason, and you can qualify for any. So if your unit is older than 5 years, but you happen to fall into an area with a low poverty rate, you'd still qualify, and vice versa. Again, we're providing 30 days from submittal of the RTA packet, but again, especially in this case, since the goal is to move tenants in as quickly as possible so we can begin issuing HAP payments, we expect it to be submitted at the time of the RTA packet. As I stated, documentation would be required for this specific incentive. If you're claiming the waiver based on the age of the unit, the landlord must submit a copy of the certification of occupancy, proving the age of the building. If based on a recent HQS or equivalent inspection, the landlord would be required to provide that verification. I know often landlords don't receive, they receive more letters when a unit fails inspection, but it would be up to the landlord, at least for the few initial years, to seek out either with HPHA or city and county perhaps, verification of a past inspection. And an equivalent inspection could include, there are inspection requirements for LIHTC units, also our PBCA, the performance-based contract administration units, as well as any other HUD programs that have similar types of inspections. Additionally, a landlord would be required to certify that the unit is free of any life-threatening deficiencies. We would be reviewing everything again on a case-by-case basis, and while the unit is an initial inspection is waived prior to move-in, we would still require an inspection to take place within the first 4 months, because we do still want to ensure that the unit is safe, decent, and sanitary. However, if you are approved for this, then a tenant may move into the unit as soon as the unit meets rent reasonable requirements. And that's our 3 initiatives. We are open to questions if you have any.